The United Auto Workers Union says it filed charges Tuesday against former President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk over comments made Monday night during a conversation on X, formerly known as Twitter.
You're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone.
Trump's comments was seen by some as him praising what's known as union busting, while Musk never directly responded to Trump's comments during the live conversation. Both men are named in the charges. Trump's campaign calls it a frivolous lawsuit. Sean Fain, the president of the UAW, spoke to my colleague Robert Costa on America Decides earlier today.
Employers need to be held accountable in this country when they break the law. It is a federal right of workers to go on strike, and they cannot be fired for that. But, you know, people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they laugh about firing people because they can care less about people and about their jobs and what they do to their careers. All they care about is the billionaire buddies and taking more wealth.
Labor union support will play a key role for the Democratic ticket on the 2024 election. Trump's opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, is endorsed by the UAW. Her running mate, Tim Walz, traveled to California Tuesday to speak to union workers. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now from the White House. Weijia, always great to see you. As you know, Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters Union, appeared at the RNC last month. And we know historically unions have been associated with the Democratic Party. So how much does the union support matter in this election in 2024?
Well, union support always matters during elections, especially in current days, because when you look at the states where most union members live and work, three of those really stand out to me, Jerika. You have Nevada, you have Michigan, and you have Pennsylvania. And these are critical battleground states. And so not only are the voters there, but also unions can generate a lot of money and they can organize in a really robust way to get out the vote when it comes to Election Day. That said, of course, rank and file members could vote however they want. They don't have to follow the union endorsement and whatever the president of a union says. However, they do tend to have conversations ahead of time. They can vote as a bloc. And I think it does matter when they might be undecided about who to vote for if, you know, several of their union members and their leaders have already made a public endorsement. So that is why you see time and time again presidential candidates really trying to bolster support from unions. In fact, just today, Tim Walz, who of course is the Democratic nominee for vice president, he made his first solo speech on the campaign trail, and he said that he was the first union member since Reagan, and that is because he is a member of a teachers union and paid dues. And so again, you see that the candidates really are trying to draw this connection to union members and get their support.
Do you think that Trump's comments, Weijia, will have an impact, though, on his support from that working class, from those sort of union workers that you talk about, especially considering the state of the economy? Because the economy is something that I think we all agree on is a top issue for many of the voters that have been surveyed. But do you think his comments impact those voters who are not sure where they want to place their vote, or even the ones who already support Donald Trump?
Sure, they could, because now he has to own those comments. He has to explain them to people who might raise an eyebrow about what he meant by that. And now he's getting sued by one of the most powerful unions in the country. But on the flip side of that, Jerika, there are union members who think that he is stronger when it comes to manufacturing, as an example, when it comes to not eliminating jobs with any green initiatives. And so, you know, union members have to balance that out. But certainly everything that either of the presidential candidates say will have a huge impact, especially as it relates to the economy and new jobs.
I want to switch to another important topic that made news today, a big issue, the abortion rights issue. 2 more states announced abortion will be on the ballot. Those states are Arizona and Missouri. How crucial could that issue of abortion rights be in November's election, especially for battleground states like Arizona?
Well, the Harris-Walz campaign is certainly making it one of their center issues for this campaign. And they say that abortion rights, women's reproductive rights are on the ballot, and they warn what could happen in a Donald Trump administration. But the reality of the matter is, Jerika, that the president doesn't have the power to do anything when it comes to abortions except sign a law or veto a law if Congress were to pass it. And we hear a lot from the campaign, from the Democratic campaign, that abortion was a winning issue during the midterms, and they think it's going to be again in the presidential election. But the difference is, in 2022, it was a winning issue for members of Congress because they actually have a vote in the matter. They have a say in the matter. So when it comes to the presidential election, we don't really know. There is a chance that somebody votes in favor of abortion access and abortion rights, but for Donald Trump. And that's something that people really haven't had to consider because there hasn't been a presidential election since abortion really became a major issue since the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Jerika.
All right, Weijia Jiang for us at the White House. Thank you.